Production. Producing and directing the remote. Every event director goes into a contest with 4 goals. First, build the viewer's excitement about the event. Second, reveal relationships and educate the audience about the intricacies of the sport. Third, catch the ambiance and emotion of the event. And fourth, communicate the event with clarity. These are accomplished by having a good game plan going into the remote and by coverage design. When we think of coverage design, it is important to remember to follow the bouncing ball. Your audience wants to know what is happening, if the audience is being successful in moving the ball and scoring, or if the defense is doing a better job of thwarting offensive attacks. Also remember the needs of your audience. They need to be oriented as to the score, to the time left in the contest, to the location on the field or court, and of course, who is winning and who is losing. They want to know which direction play is going. So don't cross them up by switching sides of the field, but more on that later. And they want to know where the ball is. Is the offensive team in football spending a lot of time on the defensive side of the 50? Is the game being won inside the paint in basketball? Is it a clean volleyball game with lots of crisp volleys? If you're doing your job well, the audience will be able to tell all this by the show you provide. 3 variables for all directors to consider are action flow, the difference in shooting team and individual sports, and the direction of action. Action flow is the continuity of action within the sport. There are 2 kinds of sports: stop-and-go sports and continuous action sports. Stop-and-go sports are sports such as football, baseball, tennis, golf, bowling, and track and field. In these sports, action occurs in bursts and then stops as the participants reset. Then it goes again. It is important to maintain audience interest during stoppage of play. This can be done by using replays, getting close-ups of huddles, getting crowd shots, or using graphics or color commentary to provide information. In continuous action sports, such as basketball, hockey, soccer, lacrosse, and auto racing, the action is ongoing, only stopping for injuries, timeouts, or fouls. As with stop-and-go sports, it is important to maintain audience interest, but at the same time, because the action has been ongoing, often at a rapid pace, don't use the stoppage time to inundate the audience with much more information. Give them a chance to catch their breath. This is a good time to use replays and for color analysis, though, because you aren't going to get much time during play. Still, remember that the stoppages are brief. You should consider that camera action tends to be rapid. We use wider angles to give the audience a chance to see the relationship of offense to defense and to establish the relationship between the ball. But we want to zoom in when there is stoppage in play, such as on a tackle. We also want to increase shot size in order to include all the action. Thus the reason as the offense moves closer to the basket, we may get away from the wider shot, pan to the offense's goal, and zoom in just to cover what is happening around the horn. Still, it is critical to remember never to change from camera to camera when critical action is taking place in the playing area. Yes, it works nicely to zoom in on the football before a kickoff and to see the kicker's foot strike the ball and then zoom to the wider shot, but we don't ever want to zoom in on the return man and miss the coverage. Similarly in baseball, we want to use the camera in center field to see the pitcher, batter, catcher, and home plate umpire. Only when the batter has made contact do we want to switch to another camera to follow the play. A second variable to consider is team sports versus individual sports. In team sports, you have built-in fan interest because of the complexity of the game. Avid fans understand how complex it is to coordinate between all the players and their many assignments on a team. Your job then is to present the game as it is. The trick is to find the stories and nuances that will make the game more interesting to the fans. Thus, while showing the high-profile players is important, because that is what the fans expect and want, it is also important to remember the less publicized players, such as the offensive linemen in football or the relief pitchers in baseball. Give them some camera time and direct your announcers to bring them into the conversation as well to give more insight into the game. In individual sports, you have more of an opportunity to bring fans into the game by using close-ups and building the emotional connection. You get to invade the player's personal space. Only be careful not to slant the coverage to one side. Don't get hung up on the star player. If I were playing tennis against, say, Rafael Nadal, it would be easy just to focus on him. But the underdog also deserves some attention. Conversely, while we all love an underdog, don't spend so much time on this player that it appears you are rooting for him or her. Also, you need to recognize that in team sports, you have a limited working space. Even in golf, the athlete is one small space at a time. A marathoner is only running in the space she is in when you film her, not the entire 26.2 miles. The bowler is only in the one lane, the boxer only in one corner at a time. Thus it is important to get in close enough not to have distracting backgrounds, but at the same time not so close that you lose any sense of the movement. Sports such as football, volleyball, basketball, soccer, and hockey occur on a horizontal plane. In order to see both teams evenly, it is important for the bulk of the action to be shown in this fashion. However, this makes it even more important not to break the 180 rule and show action from both sides of the field. Thus, in directing the cameras and in setting up the remote, draw an imaginary axis line across the middle of the field, from goalpost to goalpost or backboard to backboard as it were, and do not let the cameras cross this line. Could you have cameras on the other side of the field? Sure, but save these shots for special assignments or ISOs, which will be discussed later. Sports such as tennis and golf become vertical when the camera is most often positioned behind a participant and the ball moves up and down the screen. This is because it is difficult to follow the ball and the action of the players in a horizontal camera setup. Circular direction occurs in sports where the action may go around the X and Y axes, sports such as baseball, boxing, racing, and wrestling. In these sports, it is less an issue if you cross the axis because the fans understand that the action moves in a circular fashion. For example, fans are accustomed to seeing a center field shot, such as the one seen here, where the batter is on the left side of the screen. They also are accustomed to seeing the shot from behind the plate after a hit, where the batter is now running to the right side of the screen because they know the action goes in a circular pattern. Some final thoughts. As director, you have to think like a member of the audience. This means you have to consider what shots the audience will want to see, when they will want to see them. If it is a close game, you want to keep on the action while the ball is in play, but then you want some close-ups of the players and coaches in rapid succession to show the intensity of the moment. If it is a blowout, you need to look for the side stories, sleeping babies in the stands, bench huddles, conversations in the dugout, that sort of thing. You also need to remember that you will have a primary action camera that will get the bulk of the action. We call this the All-22 in football. This is your safe shot and the one you will go to most often because this is the camera that is bringing most of the action to the fans. You can use timeouts, huddles, injury time, or change of possession to pump the coverage by showing replays, getting tight shots on players and coaches, displaying graphics for stats, situations, or upcoming events, and color analysis. Above all, you need to go into the game with a game plan for directing the cameras, graphics, and replays. Recognize that you have three primary kinds of cameras: action camera, a hero or shag camera, and an ISO special assignment camera. The action camera is just that. Its specific assignment is to cover the action. Yes, other cameras can get action too, but that is all the action camera is for. The hero or shag camera takes the close-ups following a particular outstanding effort. For example, after a dazzling layup in basketball, the action camera follows the action, but the hero camera gets the close-up of the guard as she runs back down the floor, thus giving the director something else to use to build the drama. The ISO camera is given the assignment of following the action and finding good replay shots. It also looks for specific isolated action points. I should point out that with a 4-camera operation like ours, this is very difficult to do because we have to get more shots with the limited number of cameras available. Typically, though, an ISO camera is going to be closer to or at field level. A special assignment camera is given the job of getting specific shots, such as the crowd, the bench areas, the talent in the booth, or something of that nature. Directing graphics is also important. You have to know what graphics you have and call to the graphics operator clearly which graphics you want and when. The same goes for replays. The VTR, videotape recorder, is responsible for getting the replays recorded and logged, and then the tape AD, assistant director, will let the director know which shots are available on which machines. The director then must decide quickly whether to take the replay and which replay to take. Now, in our situation, the VTR and AD are the same person, and we can only choose from one replay input. But even in small markets, you will often have both positions with 2 or 3 replay machines to choose from.